What up? 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 It's your boy Macho here, and you're probably wondering where Savory is at. Savory right now is out doing the business out for Friday night, and he's got a regularly planned, scheduled event, and we'll get into that for this first segment, and I'll explain. All right, let me explain. First off, let me start by apologizing. I am tremendously late. It is 7 o'clock p.m. on a Friday night. We usually are marketing ourselves to be a 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday show, and I like to hold myself accountable. It's unacceptable, and I want to apologize. I'm extremely late. But I also have to extend a big apology to Savory because we were supposed to have a show. We were supposed to do a pre-record at and we were supposed to record our regularly scheduled broadcast at 3 p.m. and I was supposed to edit it and then broadcast it by 6 p.m. But being that I'm a night worker, I overslept and failed to set the time frame on my alarm. So I literally woke up and I felt like I was in an absolute panic. And I'm just looking at my phone at 6:02. I'm like, Jesus, totally blew it. So yeah, we Savory and I still have things that we got going on. So there's a lot of things that we work around because we're beginning to enter the world of content creating and well, while still having permanent jobs. So, this is not a full-time gig for us, but we're treating it as such, which is why we're having this kind of work ethic towards this kind of work. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we're working through, the time frame, work in and of itself. It takes most of our time, takes most of my time. I work nights. My shift is from 11 to 7 at night front to the morning. Then Savory's working during the day. And yet we're still trying to work our way through the content creating world and trying to figure out a way to market ourselves through TikTok and build our brand so that we get people to watch us on YouTube. And we've done a great work. We've done a great work. And I want to get in briefly to our history, kind of look at today instead of doing what we said we were going to do. Um, we're gonna move. I'm gonna talk about looking back at some of the things we talked about in recent history. But before I do that, just to share a bit of some of our history, even before that, August of I believe it was August of 2021. Savory and I linked up and I kept like pressuring him and I was like, we got to get something going. Let's get a podcast going because Savory had a podcast previous. Several I think I want to say almost 4 years ago, Savory was entering the podcast world, but that took off but didn't continue. So I said, you know what? Why don't we get that back going? Why don't we get it rolling? Right? And he's been playing touch and go the entire time. Then he got married, so on and so forth. Um, Hey, what's going on, Red Pill from TikTok? How you doing? So yeah, just we were going back and forth on that discussion, and we finally hashed something out. Did a trial run in September, did a trial run in October, just to kind of figure ourselves out. And we were doing a broadcast Monday through Friday at one point, to the point where we said we got to halt this down and let's bring it let's bring this to an actual carving situation. So, yeah, so that's why you know, we started this whole thing in a different way, but towards the end of the year we started coming to our own. And now January, when we relaunched again after we took a 2-week break, we just have a different feel with us. Similar to how we started, but a different feel. And we're gonna look back and see how that difference, how we've evolved over that time. So I want us to do it together. I'm excited to do this. This is not a burden to me. I love doing this. I love being able to talk to people, especially about culture, politics, religion, you name it. Sports. I love talking all of these things. So we wanted to do this because we have a passion for this. So that's why we started this whole gig, and we're happy to be here. So let me give some special shout outs to some of the new watchers. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. I always do this. Anytime I see a newcomer come on to the show, I do a special shout out. Stephanie, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. I think I remember, based on that last name there, I think I remember who exactly you are. So yeah, thank you guys, Trish, Tony. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. Let's get into some of our history. Let's look back. All right, let's look back here. This is the Kyle Rittenhouse War Room that we did during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and we got a lot of steam that day. The day that we had a lot of views was actually another clip we're gonna get into. But Yeah, let's check out some of the things that Savory and I was talking about then. Let's take a look at that.
Um, so as we continue here, right, I'm not going to show another footage of the protest, but check this out, right? And I'll leave this up for us as we're speaking right here. This is the president-elect. Ladies
Jojo
and
Bean.
gentlemen, this is.
Jojo
Do you
Bean.
think this is okay? No trial has started. No trial has started. No one knows if he's innocent unless you have a
When Savory's looking over to the side there, that was the time where, I was saying that his wife was behind the scenes, and I consider her like our, behind the scenes like executive producer, because she would say things and like have like these point of references, and she's awesome. She's pretty sharp. She's a great woman. So he would look over, and she would be a part of the conversation, but she's behind the scenes, so she's like covered by the veil, and it's like it was great. So yeah, I used to pick on him about it.
magic wand and you looked into the future, or you were there and looked at every single thing that the victim and the perpetrator and everybody did. You weren't. You weren't. Nobody should have a conclusion on who he is and what he's done. President Joe Biden, then president-elect, said there's no other way to put it. The president of the United States refused to disavow white supremacists on the debate stage. And then he showed Kyle Rittenhouse in a tweet as white supremacists as well. Right? So if they show the videos there.
Are you willing to specifically? Right. So what are you going to call him?
So I think he tweeted after that. But the point is, he tweeted on white supremacists, right? Called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist, unacceptable. But what are you talking about, huh? You're pandering to the people who you think want to hear that. Who voted?
Not even Barack Obama did this, bro.
Like what are we really talking about here? Like, you see, you set yourself up in a very crazy way where it's like, where are you even going with this conversation, man? Like,
this is where I start to look at wokers and freaking progressives. Like, really though? That's your president? Really? Yeah. I mean, he's my president. I'm not gonna be one of those guys like, not my president. Listen, I don't care. I'm gonna be like, that's your candidate. That's what you got.
Yeah, this is like, come on, man. My screen looks laggy. Apologize for that. We gotta definitely work on that.
I had to hit you with the Obama right there.
Come on, man.
That's right.
Yeah, those were some footage here. Let me catch on some of this. That day one, the trade.
Savory nailed this point, by the way, guys. Savory did a very good job at nailing and driving this point home about this whole white supremacy narrative and this rhetoric. We talked about white supremacy, just to add to this, guys. We talked about white supremacy more than the time it actually occurred in this day and age now. This is a serious focal point for politicians during the time that President Trump was in office, and for reasons all because they misquoted him or misinterpreted him based on the fine people on both sides comment. That literally was like inflammatory to the entire country. And I think we can thank the media for that. Um, that's my assessment. We could literally thank the media for that because what they did there was a gross miscarriage of journalism, not justice, of journalism, right? They literally, uh, uh, it's one thing to throw criticism at a president, but to make the current president look like the enemy of the state is another. And what they did with Donald Trump was absolutely atrocious for any sitting president. I don't give a damn what president it was. I'd even go back to as atrocious as William Taft or even freaking Woodrow Wilson. These guys were really vile people, right? But this is your commander in chief, and to paint and illustrate him as the enemy of the state is absolutely atrocious, and we should have never done that. We should have never allowed that. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. You guys can type that in the comment section. Share with me what you guys thought about that point, because I just felt like it was just look. You're driving home a narrative about this kid, Kyle, this Kyle Rittenhouse kid, that really is not there, and you're dramatizing it, right? You're saying he's a white supremacist. This guy is involved in QAnon. This had nothing to do with the fact that he literally had to defend himself at a protest. Why he was there, we talked about that. Why he was there versus, would you be there? Would you not be there? All these kinds of things we discussed was not relevant to the case, right? Even with the Michael Brown incident, right? When they're talking about Michael Brown's history, had nothing to do, or none of it had anything to do with the relevance of the case. It had we needed to talk about what happened that day, what happened during that incident between Officer Darren Wilson and Michael Brown. So in actuality, our media is really really hurting the way we depict some of these kinds of things. Oh yeah, congratulations to um I think it's Al Capone's. Yeah, from Red Pill from TikTok has just been labeled a social media influencer by Twitter. That is a major stepping stone. So congratulations to you. I appreciate you. Appreciate that. You sharing that with us today. So yeah, great job. Great work. Keep grinding. But yeah, I thought that Savory really drove home that point, and he did a very good job when it came to that. Let's go to another clip here. We're gonna switch points here, but and no, actually, we're gonna stay on the same topic, but we're gonna look at it from a different lens. The Joe Rogan and cancel culture episode, which I thought was another one of our best coverages. This was a recent coverage. The other one, the Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously you guys know when Kyle Rittenhouse, that was last year. But let's look at this recent coverage of the Joe Rogan, uh the canceling or the attempt to cancel him because of the times he used the N-word or made these analogies with black people. Check this out, guys. I want you guys to look at this. This was great.
We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was.
So he said we walked into Planet of the Apes. All right. So hearing that, do you think of racism right away? You laughing already? So is it that people can't take a joke? Is it that the word racism is so sensitive? Like what is it? Talk to me, Macho. What is it? Because nobody had a problem 15 years ago. 15 years later, we have a big problem now.
Well, it just adds to the narrative that our society is systemically racist. You see what I'm saying? They're smart. They know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, for me and you, listen. It's comical to me. Like he said, we literally walked into the Planet of the Apes. Like, you have to take yourself. when it comes to racism, you have to take yourself that serious to the point where, like, you're gonna be taking offense to things that people say. Really?
Yo, Macho, what's the
Before
first
people
video you
had to
played?
no, I want you to hear this. Before you had to worry about what people did to you. Now you're worried about what people say to you or say about you. It's like, I don't care. Like, you can say whatever the hell you want. We live in a free country. What happened
And
to that?
Mike,
Yeah, and that was yeah. That was I was really trying to make it clear that we went from a time period in which we had to worry about what people did to us in this country. There were people literally physically assaulting people based on the color of their skin, right? Or right, we've had lynchings, the Emmett Till trial. We had all those kinds of things that happen in history, physical altercations, right? The loosely true movie of the Mississippi burning story, right? You guys saw that. If you didn't see that movie, please see that movie, right? We've had times where the political arena, even on college campuses, in this in that revolved around the racial discussion, had led to such high contention that it literally cost people's lives physically. And now we're worried about what people say, right? It's like, wait a minute. So you want to hold me up against these indictments based on what I said, which you're taking out of context. Joe Rogan at the time was talking to a black person, and he was talking about what he was dealing with. There was a whole bunch of pieces to the story that we were not privy to because they edited a lot of that out. But irregardless of the fact, what happened to comedy? Comedy has been rendered to something that we don't take things so serious, right? The why so serious statement. Because we look at the past contentious statements or phrases or the headlines from the Jim Crow era or the headlines from some of our adolescent cartoons that we saw even as late as the 70s, right? We saw those things as purely as what it was, folks, right? Entertainment. We saw those previous contentious moments in history turn into what? Entertainment. And we made good out of something that was pretty god awful, right? And now we're able to laugh at it. We're able to look back in history and say, now that we're over that, let's grab a drink, let's laugh about it. And I think that we're losing that art because, like, there's so many things happening with young people today that I still watch those cartoons. I don't tell people that. But you know, I think that our young folks are losing dramatically, and I don't know. It, I know I'm not a fatalist, right? I'm not gonna say that this is it. That's how it's gonna be. I see that in the turn of the 21st century, we are definitely using the same. We're using rhetoric to lead this century rather than our actions, right? Our actions is what dictated us out of some of the things of the previous century. But now that we're entered into the 21st century, we're using rhetoric, and that stands out to me, right? That we have to be very diligent with how we speak and stay strong, but also use some form of empathy. But I thought that was a interesting interesting thing that we endured there. And yeah, I mean, we didn't get that many views, but we're hoping that we can stimulate the YouTube algorithm to get more views. I want to pivot now backwards once again. This one was a one of our earlier episodes, and this was when we were talking about the Kyrie Irving situation and him not getting the vaccine. And Savory and I had fierce back and forth about this topic when it came to like Kyrie. Come on, get the jab. And Kyrie's persona to me has rubbed me the wrong way because there was a time where I really looked up to him as a fan. And then when he started opening his mouth, I wanted him to shut up. I want him to shut up. I want LeBron James to shut up because there were a period of time when I was a kid watching LeBron James. I looked up to the guy. And more when I grew up and I started to hear him speak, I just want the man to shut up because you're making things sound weird. You're not making a good point. You're actually making things sound very weird because you're sensitive, fragile ego. And we cannot forget that, folks. Kyrie Irving and company, Chris Pauls of the world, um, uh, Carmelo Anthony's of the world. These guys have fragile egos because they're like the prima donnas of the NBA, right? So they have very fragile egos. You would never see this in the 80s and the 90s because we came out of a situation where things were really, really racially contentious in the 70s. So when we entered into the 80s, the NBA and pro sports entered a new realm of reality. I mean, we're talking about cream of the crop basketball started to really emerge, and the floodgates was opening to the rest of the world. And that's when I started to believe in the 80s during the time of the early years, in the mid 80s, in the early years of Michael Jordan's career. You had Magic Johnson around. You had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You had some of the best movies produced outside of severe racial contention. Things were booming, right? Despite the fact that our economy was still kind of stagnant. But we were entering a new realm of reality. And the pro sports during those years was literally getting the fruits of that labor. So let's look at some of the things we said about Kyrie Irving, and the question of, do you think Kyrie Irving is a hero? Vaccination, or if it's about choice, I'm not sure, but we'll flesh that out as we go along. Is Kyrie Irving a hero? I want us to explore that today. Is Kyrie Irving a hero? And particularly what the story is with Kyrie Irving is first off, everyone in the NBA is mandated to get the vaccine. It's part of them being able to be on the court, right? Kyrie Irving decides to take a stand and not be vaccinated. And be as penalty to that, he cannot play this season. So the entire season he's not going to play. He's also lost some money. He's possibly, stay tuned, he's possibly lost an extension with the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
So is he a hero? Is he a hero for the unvaccinated? Is he a hero for the pro-choicers? Or is he a hero even for the vaccinated? I want to explore all those things. So what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, those are all good questions, but that's not the question I ask myself. I don't look at athletes as heroes. I don't look at none of these people as more than athletes. But what I would say is I appreciate what he's doing. I really love what he's doing, right? But for me, I'm not elevating this to an issue of him saving the world, but he is standing up in a time where it's needed when it comes to vaccine, right? I'm not saying when it comes to anti-vaccine, but when it comes to the choice and the freedom to actually not take a vaccine, right? When you have somebody like Kyrie Irving, top 5 NBA player, his name is known out there, championship NBA level. I think he's inspiring a lot of people to hold their ground. I actually got excited. And I know a lot of people.
I don't know. This dude is so problematic. He's so problematic that, first off, remember, let's look at his track record here. My man, well, before we go into that realm, I love the way Savory answered this question, because there's far too often we had the Charles Barkley, don't have your kids look at me as your hero, because I'm not. Um, because he had that campaign in the 90s where he was literally telling this society, I'm not a hero, you know. So I wanted to really drive home a point, and Savory once again nailed it by literally talking about, I don't look at these people as my hero. I appreciate some of the things they do. There's a very, very, very clear distinction to looking to someone as a hero or appreciating the things that they do or what they represent. And Savory once again nailed it. You can't answer that question any better than that. And that's and the reasons why he looked into him or why he appreciated him will be revealed. So let's go back to it. Accuses, or I made some subtle shade at the Boston people, talking about how racist that arena could be, or the Boston fans could be.
Yeah,
Mind
yeah.
you, sold the most jerseys there. Sold the most jerseys. They bought his sneakers. But you're talking, I mean, you're not white. You're black.
Yeah, but that's a whole different issue though. Yo,
All right. I'm just saying.
because I'm with you on that, but I don't care about
I think that this dude's such a flip flopper. You can't believe in systemic racism and then also be like, yo, I must take a stand for. You can't stand on the side of progressives and think it ain't gonna come to bite you in the ass when you take a stand against them.
Well, conservatives are behind him right now, it seems.
Conservatives are behind the idea. They're not behind him.
Yeah, the idea. But you always get behind the idea, not the person. That's why I look at athletes. So this is how I look at it. All right. When it comes to Kyrie Irving, I believe he does stuff because he actually really believes it. Why? He puts his money where his mouth is, right? The George Floyd. There's tons of people who talk mad stuff about helping.
He bought a house for a crackhead. He bought a house.
He bought a house. If you want to call that, yeah, okay. But he did something, which means he actually believes that he puts his money where his mouth is.
If I was a crackhead, I'll be lined up right now in front of Kyrie Irving's house. Like it's a lunch line.
You have to get killed by police, bro. Relax. Yo.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
But that's what it is this is what I'm saying. I believe Kyrie Irving believes what he preaches and validates that. I'm not only talking about George Floyd, the way he gives, the way he volunteers, children stuff that he does, his camp. He actually believes this. Is he right in that? I believe a lot of that stuff is rhetoric and wrong, right? But at the end of the day, he's doing the same thing here. Yo, you can't tell Kyrie Irving.
Savory didn't want to take the bait about me calling George Floyd a crackhead. He didn't want to go down that realm. He wanted to handle this with class. But knowing me as the guy, that guy to have to say certain things, I went down that road. I still hold fast to that, right? I still look at George Floyd as a crackhead because that's what he was, right? Why do I say that? I grew up in New York City. There were a lot of people on drugs that I would see, and we would make fun of them, right? Growing up, because they had a different attitude. They had certain knee jerk reactions. They would have these mannerisms. They would do certain things, say certain things that, you know, society has rendered the, ignoring ear to some of those people in New York City, and especially in the inner city. It's not that they're not being helped or trying to be helped. It's the fact that these people don't want to be helped. So being labeled a crackhead is just not being like, oh, you're a crackhead. You could be an alcoholic. You could be, all these kinds of things. But we would generalize that statement to attribute to a lot of different types of personalities that are hooked and addicted on some kind of substance. Society was not ignoring them. They just knew who they were. But society was giving that ignoring ear because it's like, yeah. You've been given the hand, but you don't want to take it. You want to live with your addiction. And I think sometimes we we gloss over that with the George Floyd incident because we don't like how the optics looked with that police interaction. But let me tell you something, guys, that what are you supposed to do when someone is acting really, really non-compliant or acting extremely erratic to the point where this person was literally throwing their head around, hurting themselves in the back of a police vehicle. That is your responsibility to make sure that this person under your arrest is okay. So you have to subdue him. Now, I don't agree with the optics of how that incident looked, but at the end of the day, it was messy all around. So, but Savory didn't want to get into that in this point because that wasn't the question. The question is, do you see Kyrie Irving as a hero? I want to continue some of these statements here. Let's see what we got here.
How to act, and you can't expect a certain behavior from him. This ended up being in the right side of history, I believe, because these are the kind of things we need. So I look at his past, I'm like, yo, it is what it is. I disagree with this. It's like if Joe Biden all of a sudden comes out and has a plan for the free market, and I'll be like, oh, all right, cool. Like, I'm with that. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to judge you by your last idea or by your most relevant kind of situation that you have in front of you. Yeah, I'm still looking at your past, but I'm only talking about right now. Kyrie Irving is that dude right now.
And he's absolutely 100% right again. Kyrie Irving was that dude. He took a stand against the NBA. He put his money on the line. He let his money talk. He didn't chase. He didn't cave. He stood. He stood. He stood. I give it to him. I don't agree with Kyrie's rhetoric, his antics. I don't agree with some of his behaviors. But that's neither here nor there. He stood on the right side of liberty, and I give it up to him. I give it up to him. Good job, Kyrie. And now that they're waiving the vax mandate for New York City, he is now going to be playing the rest of the games for the excuse me, I still call them New Jersey, but for the Brooklyn Nets now. Yeah, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. Whoever's watching, just share your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Now let's do another pivot here. Let's talk about another one of our coverages, and that was the live election coverage of the Virginia and New Jersey. We did a live coverage. I think we did about 4 hours in that coverage, and we was just going at it, hammering out, watching, following the voting for governor for those two respected states, Virginia and New Jersey. And New Jersey was a big one for Savory because Savory is just across the pond from me. He's in Jersey City. So it was really important to say, hey, I want to know who's going to win this governorship, because if Phil Murphy wins again, then, I'm contemplating long-term decisions because I don't want to be here under a Phil Murphy, New Jersey. I want to be here under a Jack Chillarelli, New Jersey. And so that's why he was following it so closely and being involved. And then we had the governorship, the office for Virginia that went red. So we covered that. So here's some of the things we talked about in that live coverage. Let's take a look.
Great branding, great all, and then they overplay their hands out of confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that's what's happening in the country. But the problem is the minority has a louder voice. So from the outside, you feel the minority's taking over. They're just loud.
Yeah, it looks like we have a crowd in New Jersey there. I'm not sure what
Okay.
campaign
Technical
is
issues
there.
reported at NJ polling sites.
Sounds like a
Shenanigans
Democrat.
begin.
It sounds like a Democrat run issue here.
No, son, let the technical issues begin. This is probably a
It's like
county
this.
where
You know what he should be saying right now? Let me mute it for a second. He should be saying this. Hello, reporting live from Phil Murphy's campaign, and it looks like the Democrats are trying to rig it again.
it looks like they're at it again. For real, like technical issues report at NJ. Yeah, I wonder what those that you see. Like when I hear
They're
stuff
so
like that,
afraid of power a shift of power. They're
Polls
so
closed.
scared.
The fact that New Jersey holds its elections in these offices.
Wait.
New Jersey,
Polls closed.
changed its constitution
In New
to hold
Jersey, yeah.
governor's
The
elections
Oh yeah,
polls are
damn right.
closed.
Okay.
years
Yeah.
following the presidential cycle.
Now they're
The
gonna have
polls are
trouble
closed.
counting it. So every time Jack Chiarelli's up, they're gonna have a water leak or something.
A water leak.
It's crazy.
We're not supposed to talk like deplorables, Savory. Come on now.
We gotta chill. We gotta
The
chill.
backwater Trumpicans that we are. You can't do that, bro.
Murphy.
Oh man, and I was just glad because Savory was taking the bait, and I was trying to stimulate more responses from Savory, and he has a very nonchalant demeanor to him, so he's very even keel, very mild tempered. I rarely see Savory. I've known Savory now for 10+ years. I rarely see him animated, angry, or anything like that. But when he is, I remember it because it doesn't happen so often. So yeah, I usually spend a lot of the episodes just saying things to get a reaction out of him because sometimes when he does get animated or when he really bites the bait, some of the most richest things come out of his mouth. So I want to keep doing that, and I find my role in this show often trying to get him to react or quote unquote battle for position on the talking points because I like that back and forth contention. I like it if I watch. I don't know if you guys like it, but I think it's entertaining when there's a battle for ground on the talking points. And I think Savory sometimes when he bites the bait and he takes it, I mean, he really says some really good stuff. So that's you guys see here.
Murphy's gonna win fair and square. That's what I meant to say.
So let's see what else we got here as we move along with the broadcast. What we're going to do is keep thumb on the live broadcast here. I have a tab open for it. As soon as I see something coming up, it looks like it appears like there's some trouble going on right now that the polls, there looks like there's some technical difficulties. We're going to get some information on that and see exactly what is going on, what's being reported on the ground. So bear with us. Savory, what do you got over there?
Let's go back to some of these clips to take them back to memory lane.
Let's do that. In some of these debates, like what really stood out to you with the NJ debates? Like what made you like say, I would love nothing more to back Jack, or I would love nothing more to back Phil, which I think you showed your hand already. You don't want Phil, so.
Yeah, I definitely don't want Phil, but it's simple for me, man. It was really hearing him speak from a perspective of less government and interference, right? Like when I hear politicians try to give me too many solutions, try to provide too many solutions, I'm always weary.
That's when I get worried. I get worried too.
Yeah, I'm very much like, man, why are you trying to supply all these solutions? Which remember, with promised solutions comes more control over your life, right? More
solutions remind me of communism. That's what solutions remind me of.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Anytime I hear somebody saying, I got a bright idea to fix our economy, I got a bright idea to fix this and fix that. Our country is built in and around freedom, folks.
Freedom.
Do you know what freedom means? Like
free speech, free religion.
When you implement something, that is a ripple effect. We live in an ocean.
Yeah.
So that means when you do something in the ocean, it's going to cause a ripple effect.
Exactly.
And it's going to cause more problems. This is why Tom Sowell says politicians don't create solutions. They create problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they implement a solution that they think is going to fix things, it only creates more problems.
Yeah.
Conservative approach says, leave it as it is. Don't touch it.
Yeah, man. And then thinking about
this is when we kind of go off the cuff here, because again, we're doing a live election coverage. There's no talking points here. There's no questions that were already drawn up. We're literally going off the cuff, having a natural, raw conversation about how we examine candidates. I think it goes without saying that we look at this is exactly how we measure candidates, right? This is what we take to the table when we think about. I think we all do to some extent. I think there are a small percentage of people who are looking for the hero to run our country. I think there's a lot of people who are looking for strength. just as a symbolic thing to run our country, to run our states, to run our local areas. We're looking for something symbolic, like a leader, someone who now we can recline to living our life. You handle this. We'll live our life. We'll work. We'll do our job. So I think it goes without saying how we look at these situations. But yeah, I want to hone in. I think we both said the same thing. When a politician comes up and says, "I got the solutions," we are worried. We are literally like, I don't want to hear that. That's an authoritative person for me. Um, but when you, for example, when Trump would come in and the way he would press in was pressing against government, was not pressing just against candidates or one side or the other. He was pressing against government. He was literally taking shots at our entire government scheme. So I think that's what really won a lot of the voters over in 2016. And I think in all actuality, it wasn't what is it, a white lash, as Von Jones would describe it, or a backlash or a blacklash. I don't know how he was describing it. I don't remember off the top of my head. But one thing's for sure: 8 years of Obama, people were tired of the masquerade. They needed a break from that. Sounds pretty, sounds eloquent, sounds nice. You're talking a whole bunch of garbage. We need somebody who's going to be to the point. Someone who's going to break through the wall. Someone's going to come in and break it through a sledgehammer. So I think this was the time for a guy like Donald Trump. Forget the rhetoric. This was a time for him because the country wanted this. They wanted somebody who was going to be strong and break through the walls. Someone who is not going to be Mr. Nice Guy in a way. So I see the silver lining there that the country should not be regretful for. And nor do I think I think the representation of why even Joe Biden was elected was because I think society got to the point where it's like, look, the media keeps driving this home. Trump is being too hard, being too forthcoming. So therefore, we need to go back to the old ways of politicking. And sometimes we go back to what we know. We go back to that because why? If it's going to calm you down, for example, right? If our kids, the toddler stage, when we know that they can't control their emotions, right? They haven't yet learned how to control their emotions until they get a little older, then you can kind of steward them and guide them through it. But when they're a toddler phase, whoo, it was hard to get my son to be like, okay, I understand you're mad, but calm down, right? But those are the tough phases that we have to endure. But sometimes people just, they'll just give the lollipop just to shut the kid up. So I think the majority of our country, absent from ideological perspective, wanted to give that lollipop to society. Shut the hell up about Trump. Shut the hell up about this white supremacy nonsense. Shut the hell up about racism. I want to move on and live my life without, I want to drive my tractor trailer, my truck. I want to go into the store. I want to go to the club. And I don't want to hear about this man named Trump. So I think the media did a good job at raising that distaste, not for the person, but for the situation of the conversation. Everywhere you go, this is the conversation. Everywhere you go, we should hate him. Everywhere you go, oh, come on, can you believe what was just said? I think society was having a temper tantrum, and rather endure through that, listen, not say get over it, but literally stay steady and allow them to subside their frustrations. I mean, society. I mean, it was really hard to do that when they're destroying things in 2020. I mean, it looked like we were going towards that bend of an internal riot in every big major city. I mean, Summer of Love in freaking Seattle was pretty terrible, right? So I think that to an extent, I think you know this was society saying, "Shut up! Here's the lollipop. Get out of my way. Here's Joe Biden." here, here, be quiet, right? So I understand that. As a father, I totally get that. My daughter, she wasn't the easiest toddler to deal with. I didn't deal with her directly, but I knew of it because her mother would tell me on a daily that our daughter's emotions was like a freaking wild, stirred hurricane, and at any moment could tip it off. So let's get to the next and last video clip of the coverage that we were doing, a live coverage of the Russian Ukraine invasion that they were saying in the headlines. I like to take a neutral, objective approach. I call it the Russian Ukraine conflict, not the Russian invasion. I think already that tips the hand of where we should be, rather than how we should look at that situation from afar. I'm not in that conflict. So I don't know why would I already pick a side. I don't have no side to pick. So let's look at the first initial coverage, and this was a sit down, impromptu sit down between Savory and a man named Marcos.
To the nobody. So if you see it in my background, hit the link in the bio. The moderators and Macho will put it every so often, but just so y'all can know, if y'all want to join on the chat here, I'll be more active here.
I was operating. By the way, I was operating in the background, and if you're wondering why I wasn't there for this coverage, it's because I was at work, and I was still operating in the background on my computer at work, just navigating. Anytime Savory would yell out, "Can you give me some coverage on this? Some background on that?" I would send links through the private chat of our stream studio in there, and he was able to click on links, get videos, anything, some information up to date, up to speed. And so I would just listen in and hear what he wanted and just send that request in, and was sending also notations between Marcos and Savory here in this discussion to carry on the discussion in specific ways so that it doesn't go too far astray, right? Or there's not these gaps at times where they're just sitting down trying to figure out the words to say, but asking the questions, right? So yeah, I was very much involved in the background in this entire situation. But this was a really good initial start. We went on a 3 consecutive days where we had somebody on the show. We had Marcos, we had Travis, we then had Roderick, who came on with some explosive stuff that we had to verify. So yeah, this was the initial process to our Russian Ukraine conflict.
Macho will probably be guiding you guys here on the TikTok as well, but just FYI. All right, go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, definitely want to go in the chat. I see a lot of good questions. So basically, the One Belt, One Road initiative seeks to make one trade route all the way from China to the west, spanning across to most parts of Afghanistan and going up into that
A
Russian
literal
area.
one trade route, or is that the term for?
It's about 3 roads, but they
Okay.
go right across, almost rail lines.
Okay, interesting. All right.
And this would make it a lot more easier for them, especially to move oil, because with Nord Stream 2, what Russia was going to do is circumnavigate the UK. If the UK and Russia can circumnavigate the gas pipeline, that means the UK doesn't have to seek oil from Saudi Arabia or America. And that pushes that power to Russia directly. The United States has to use our reserves because we can't sell anymore. Saudi Arabia plays with the prices. China has Russian more appeasement with Russia, and they get the money and they do trade with Russia. All the dependency on the United States of America goes down about 3 levels. That's what China wants. If China is already almost ahead of us in GDP,
Yeah, and
and
that's
we owe them.
aligned with their yeah, because I also want to hit on your thoughts right after you finish your thoughts here. I'm kind of curious if you have any connection of China.
I think Marco did a great job at illustrating some of the underlying layers to some of the issues surrounding the Russian Ukraine conflict, and gave us a good starting point, the launch pad to really dig deep on this situation. Savory and I was immersed in some of the information not only coming out but looking backward, right? Not just in the current circumstance, because again, the broadcasting, the media, the countries, the governments, even the allies are all on the same page. So it's kind of hard to work through the propaganda, so to speak. So we would have to look backwards to understand current. And so that's what we started to do. Savory and I lost a lot of sleep over this because we were trying to figure out certain avenues. So to which I end up started saying, if you're looking for a good guy in this scenario, you'll be pressed to find one. So why are we picking a side? Well, we're picking a side because we want Ukraine to be part of NATO. We want to have that leverage over Russia and China. We want to drive that wedge between those two nations. Um, Tactically, I understand. From a geopolitical standpoint, I understand it full on well. I know the nature of the beast. Um, you want that leverage. You want long term power. You're going into the 21st century. You want to be able to run the world, so to speak. And I get it. But everybody else has their own interests, right? Putin's got his own interests for his own country. Xi Jinping has his own interests for his own country. And, I think that these strong arm moments happen. And unfortunately, a lot of people's lives get caught in the mid crossfire of this. Um, but I think that it would lead to a different kind of future than what the media is projecting. This whole World War III nonsense doesn't benefit or help anybody, not even the people who benefit off our war tactics. That's my opinion, right? World War III is going to literally crash things. If you want to call it a reset, whatever, it doesn't benefit a lot of people. What benefits a lot of people is the loom of that discussion. You guys get where I'm saying here? The idea that that's hanging over our heads, that dark cloud, that hey, we could be going into something nuclear, right? Hey, Vladimir Putin could be reinstating the USSR, right? Russia, China is probably collaborating. Check that out. The countries are starting to feel it. Um, the loom of that is what makes people, and specifically oligarchies, um, top governments like America, Russia. It makes them the most money when it's in the loom of these kind of discussions. It's purely corrupt. So that's where my thought process on this is, and I thought Marcos and Savory's interview, the initial interviews of the three, was excellent. Some things there that I didn't necessarily agree with Marcos, but I understood his approach, right? He is part of the young conservative Republicans in Brooklyn, and he also has that narrative to throw into that spin. But he did give us a lot of insight looking backwards. Some of the strategic steps that China and Russia has been making to bring about this concern for NATO, NATO, America, and all the other countries that ally with that alliance. So let's get a last little bit of look here, and then we'll wrap up the show.
China and Taiwan, and how like you believe that can move forward. If there's any connection you see in that happening there.
So that is an interesting part. I don't pride myself in being too much into the Taiwanese
Okay, cool.
or
Just curious, but
debate.
let's keep going with the Russia though. I'm just curious to see if you had a
No,
connection. But
now
let's keep going.
I did see some. I'm not sure if they're real. I wasn't. I was looking up at the Putin information, and there was some news. Not sure if it's real, but that some Chinese ships were going in over that seaboard line towards Taiwanese islands. So that is interesting. It could happen, but we can talk about it later. But I am
Yeah, let's stay
one of the.
focused on this. I'm with you. If there's no connection, let's
Here's
keep going with Russia.
here's
Yeah.
here's where the signal is, and not and where we have to get the noise away. The next thing that Putin says, besides the funding and the creation of these revolutions and these groups that are destabilizing Ukraine away from the Soviet purposes that it has. He mentions that Ukraine is basically corrupted. It wishes to continue to push towards these progressive ideologies and communist ideologies, but that they are undertaken by a parasite. And this parasite is led by blackmail and things that are instrumenting the Ukraine government to act in the way that they are and avoiding Russia and moving more towards NATO. Now, guys, what could that be? What $1 billion offer? What? Hey, once we win and we get re-election, we're gonna get a lot easier with you. Does anyone remember all of this?
Yeah, that's what Obama said.
We all and Biden paid for it, and the
And
blackmail's
yeah.
Hunter. Guys,
Mm-hmm.
this is the next piece in terms of what the world, I think, needs. Russia is going to push Ukraine for the money that they owe them, for them historically being a property of the Soviet Union, and also to expose the corruption and the obvious sense that George Soros has basically been using Ukraine as a pawn since 2013 with the Obama administration. Point blank. That's it. Now, on the upper elm.
Yeah, if you guys want to catch more of those episodes, please go back and look at some of those episodes. They're there. And if you want to look at some of the highlights, I have the highlights there. So check that out. Then gonna go to this last segment to close the show. Some of the I don't have our typical sip on facts today, right? That I leave you guys with a one-liner, because we're looking back to see how we have progressed. And so my question is to the people watching: how do you think we have progressed? I want to see how you guys interpret our progression. How do you guys think we're doing with Drinks with the Nobody? Do you guys think we're on the right track? Do you guys think that, you wish we would go this direction or that direction more? Let us know. So put in our comment section, put in any of our videos. Hey, I wish you guys would. Hey, I love this. Hey, this. Hey, that. To up our game, right? So on today's Sip on Facts, I leave you guys with that question, and I leave you that for the weekend. So thank you guys for joining in and tuning in Friday night's podcast, and I'll give a wave to Savory as he's enjoying his night at a wedding tonight. And the show's not good. The show is not the same without you, brother. But we had elements of you today, and we'll be back together on Monday to cover our live show then. Let's see here. Let's look at some of the comments. Yep. Yeah. Great. I'll see you guys on Friday. Excuse me, Friday. It is Friday. I'll see you guys on Monday night. We will do our best to be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Monday. See you guys then.